Our protagonist of the story died as a nobody, but fate gave him a second chance. Reborn into the body of a nobleman, he inherited a crumbling territory plagued by corruption, starvation, and enemies waiting to strike. Armed with the knowledge of his past life, he's building an army, industrializing his land, and forging a kingdom that will defy the odds. The manhwa starts with a doctor urgently calling out for assistance, instructing the team to place the patient on a ventilator. Meanwhile, Jan gasped, his chest heaving as his heart pounded erratically, on the verge of giving out. Jan, a dedicated industrial mechanical designer for the past 20 years, found himself teetering on the brink of life and death. His tireless work had yielded little more than disappointment and a pervasive loneliness. Now, his relentless drive had finally caught up with him, fracturing his mental health and leaving him in this precarious state. From the moment of his birth, Jan's life had been marked by tragedy. A car accident had claimed his parents, leaving him to navigate the world as an orphan. Despite his hardships, Jan pressed on, clinging to the hope that life would one day acknowledge his efforts and deem him successful. That day, however, never came. After graduating, he secured a low-paying job that barely kept him afloat for 2 decades. His personal life was just as bleak. He had spent his entire life alone, never once experiencing the intimacy of even holding someone's hand. And now it seemed his solitary journey was coming to an end. "Jan, can you hear me?" His closest friend's voice broke through the chaos, filled with worry as they tried to pull him back from the brink. Yet, Jan couldn't help but question the worth of a life like his. Was there any meaning to such an existence? As exhaustion overwhelmed him, he thought, maybe I'll just take a little nap. When Jan opened his eyes, the scene around him was utterly unfamiliar. He found himself in a room of unparalleled luxury, adorned with silk curtains and sparkling crystal lights. The opulence of the setting made him panic momentarily, thinking he had somehow burned through all his savings on an extravagant hospital room. Then, a notification appeared before him. "Welcome to the magical continent of Elda." The realization hit him like a jolt. Could this be one of those isekai scenarios straight out of fiction? In this strange new land, Jan discovered he was now known as Ren. Bewildered, he tried to make sense of his circumstances, but answers were elusive. A week passed in this fantastical world. Ren found himself living a dreamlike life, attended to by servants at every turn. Slowly, he pieced together the truth of his situation. He had indeed died and somehow been reincarnated in the body of Ren Edgar, the third son of the Duke of the Allen Edgar family. Ren had an older sister and brother, both of whom had cared for him deeply since his childhood. "Little brother, eat this. You're growing up and shouldn't go hungry," his sister insisted, placing a lavish spread before him. His brother handed him a sparkling vial, explaining, "This is magic water. It's said to enhance magical power, and I got it at a high price." Even his mother contributed to this nurturing atmosphere, gifting him a new shirt she had made herself and urging him to try it on. As the youngest and most pampered member of the family, Ren lived a life of unparalleled comfort. But as he reveled in this newfound luxury, he couldn't help but feel like a stranger in this world, questioning why he had been granted such blessings. To soothe his doubts, he reasoned that perhaps this was compensation for the hardships he endured in his previous life. The world of Elda was a marvel, where magic powered all aspects of infrastructure. The Corial Empire, the continent's largest human nation, was a melting pot of various races, including elves and dwarves. The Edgar family's influence was vast, overseeing a territory of 300,000 square kilometers. Their domain boasted fertile fields, a grand castle, and a population of over 1 million. As a noble, Ren had everything he could ever want, from fine clothing to a personal maid. Yet every time he looked into the mirror, he saw Jan's face staring back at him, a haunting reminder of his past life. One day, Ren's introspection was interrupted by Leah, a beautiful and cheerful maid, who informed him that his father wanted to see him. She led him to the study, where his father, Aldine, was reviewing reports from across their lands. Ren greeted him with the practiced courtesy of a noble, awaiting his father's words. Aldine regarded his son with a serious expression, his tone carrying weight as he asked, "Do you know why I called for you?" The gravity of the moment made Ren uneasy, but he softly replied, "No, I don't, father." The Duke leaned back in his chair, his stern demeanor easing slightly. "Ren, you've reached the age to manage your own territory. Have you considered where you would like it to be?" The question left Ren stunned. His surprise turned into confusion as he hesitantly inquired about inheriting land. Aldine sighed at his son's naivety, explaining that it was customary for a noble of Ren's age to take charge of a territory. Rising from his chair, the Duke approached a large map mounted on the wall. "The land you'll oversee is in the northwest. It's relatively safe, but the lack of mages has made food supply a persistent issue." His tone grew more solemn as he continued. "While our territory is stable for now, the future of the Coriol Empire is uncertain." Ren silently agreed with his father's assessment. The royal family's decline and the decaying political system had led to a fractured empire. Lords constantly clashed, with hidden rivalries and schemes weaving a dangerous web of competition that only grew more tangled with time. Since his rebirth, Ren experienced care and affection he had never known before. This newfound love made him determined to protect those who genuinely cared for him. Observing his son deep in thought, Aldine grew concerned, questioning whether he was placing too much responsibility on Ren. In an attempt to ease the tension, he reassured his son that he wasn't alone. Aldine reminded Ren that he had his older brother, his sister, and his father to support him. Ren, however, appeared to have an idea. He looked at his father with a newfound determination. With a serious tone, he asked if solving the food supply issue would make their territory safer. Aldine smiled at Ren's enthusiasm, but viewed his son's approach as overly simplistic. He explained that resolving the food problem required more than passion. It demanded meticulous planning and gradual implementation. But Ren wasn't thinking simplistically. He was drawing from the accumulated knowledge of humanity, forged through countless industrial revolutions. With unwavering confidence, he boldly declared that he would take on the responsibility of addressing the food crisis. Ren's journey to his new domain began. Island City, the remote territory assigned to him, was a land rich in potential but fraught with challenges. To the north, it bordered the territory of Grand Duke Ryan, a sworn adversary. To the west lay the enigmatic lands of the elves, and to the south stretched the vast, uncharted ocean. The territory's strategic location had made it a frequent battleground, leaving its fertile lands barren, its population sparse, and its resources depleted. As the carriage carried him toward Island City, Ren immersed himself in the documents detailing his new domain. Leah, his loyal companion, watched him intently, concern etched on her face. Ren knew that revitalizing the territory required increasing its population, as a strong workforce was the backbone of any industrial revolution. He understood the enormity of the challenge but believed his efforts would succeed. Ren wasn't starting from scratch. Among his assets was a special skill granted to him by the system, Human Resource Scan. This ability allowed him to assess and identify talented individuals with ease. Having tested the skill on his family, Ren had established a clear understanding of the world's talent standards. His first priority upon arriving in Island City was clear: find extraordinary individuals who could aid in restoring the territory. Meanwhile, Leah recalled the Duke's instructions to her: support Ren and ensure he didn't create chaos in the region. Silently, she prayed that Ren wouldn't make a mess of things. In Island City, the city lord's residence was abuzz with tension. A man, visibly anxious, reported that the Duke's youngest son would arrive soon. He suggested taking preemptive action. However, the masked man seated across from him dismissed the concern with a cold, measured response. He instructed them to await further orders and not to touch Ren for now. His calm demeanor masked simmering anger as he spoke of making Aldine pay for past transgressions. The blonde-haired man nearby was less composed. Nervously, he fretted over his falsified financial records and embezzled taxes. However, the masked man laughed dismissively, deriding Ren as an ignorant playboy who would never notice such details. All they needed to do was hand him some irrelevant documents upon his arrival. The blonde-haired man reluctantly obeyed and left to prepare for Ren's reception. As Ren's carriage approached the outskirts of Island City, he peered out at the barren fields and abandoned farmlands. His expression turned serious as he surveyed the scene. He requested a map from Leah and examined the surrounding area meticulously. His gaze lingered on the river to the west and the harbor to the south. A sudden idea struck him. Dredging the river and building a canal to connect it to the sea could breathe new life into the land. Ren's thoughts were interrupted by a desperate cry. A young girl knelt in the dirt, clutching the leg of a man, likely her father, who seemed intent on heading to a gambling den. The girl pleaded tearfully, begging him not to gamble away their remaining money, which was meant for her mother's treatment. Her voice trembled as she explained that losing the money would doom her ailing mother. The man, consumed by his greed, roared at the girl to let go. His confidence in his luck blinded him to her desperation. When she refused to release him, he raised his hand in anger, intending to strike her. Before the blow could land, Ren intervened. With a swift punch, he sent the man sprawling to the ground. Fury burned in Ren's eyes, though he winced immediately. This was, after all, the first time he had ever thrown a punch. Leah rushed to Ren's side, her face filled with concern. She scolded him gently, remarking that next time he planned to hit someone, he should at least warn her so she could bring protective gear. Ren chuckled, brushing off her concern. He explained that the punch had been a spur-of-the-moment decision, leaving no time for preparation. As he spoke, he strode toward the man sprawled on the ground, instructing Leah to check on the girl while he dealt with the gambler. The man, still clutching his face, stared up at Ren in shock. Ren's gaze was sharp and filled with contempt. He berated the man for taking money meant for his family and gambling it away, even resorting to hitting his own daughter. The gambler scowled and tried to defend himself, asking who Ren was to meddle in his affairs. Ren stepped closer, his presence imposing. He warned the man that it didn't matter who he was. If he ever caught him near a gambling den again, the consequences would be severe. Ren's cold tone and threatening demeanor made the man pale with fear. Stammering, the gambler promised to stay away from gambling dens and quickly fled the scene. Feeling satisfied with his handling of the situation, Ren turned back to the girl, who stood there frozen in shock. Concerned, he asked if she was all right and activated his system to check her condition. The girl, named Lillian, bowed her head in gratitude, thanking Ren profusely. She explained how losing the money would have meant losing the chance to save her mother's life. As Ren studied the system screen, he was intrigued to see her stats. While most were ordinary, one unique attribute stood out: her potential in agriculture and harvesting. Recognizing this hidden talent, Ren decided on the spot to recruit her for his plans to restore the land. Ren smiled warmly at her, noting that she was likely heading into the city to find a doctor for her mother. He suggested she join his group, as they were also traveling there. Lillian hesitated, concerned about dirtying his carriage, but Ren reassured her with a calm smile. He explained that a carriage was just a vehicle, merely planks of wood pieced together. There was no such thing as clean or dirty when it came to transportation. Besides, he had a few questions for her. Suddenly, Ren's tone grew serious. He questioned why a gambling den existed in such a poverty-stricken area. He recalled the region's recent hardships. Last fall, soldiers sent by Grand Duke Ryan had attacked, leading to heavy casualties. Early in the spring, devastating floods had ravaged the land, leaving its people struggling to survive. The streets of Island City bore the scars of these events, with beggars lining the roads and despair visible everywhere. Walking through the ruined streets, Ren decided it was essential to conduct a full population census to assess the remaining productive workforce. First, however, he planned to visit the City Lord's manor to review the reserve funds and determine what could be allocated for infrastructure improvements. Ren asked Lillian for the manor's location, but before she could answer, a shout interrupted their conversation. A blonde-haired man on horseback barreled down the street, shouting for people to move out of his way. The man seemed indifferent to the chaos he caused, his actions reckless and dangerous. Leah reacted swiftly, pulling Ren aside just in time to avoid the galloping horse. The rider disappeared into the distance, unconcerned about the commotion he had left behind. Leah, however, glared after him furiously. To her, anyone who dared harm Ren deserved the harshest punishment. As Leah's grip tightened protectively around Ren, he struggled to breathe and finally managed to get her attention. She quickly released him, apologizing and asking if he was hurt. Ren reassured her with a smile, expressing his gratitude for her quick actions. Turning serious again, Ren asked Lillian if she recognized the rider. Trembling, she explained that he was the young master of the Elwyn family, whose wealth stemmed from owning all the gambling dens in Island City. Ren's expression shifted to one of interest. If the Elwyn family was wealthy, it presented an opportunity to fund his plans. He asked Lillian to take him to one of the gambling dens, but she tried to dissuade him, worried that he would lose all his money. Ren, however, remained confident. He assured her that the gambling den wouldn't be taking anything from him. Watching his determined figure, Lillian couldn't help but wonder who this noble young man truly was. Soon, Ren arrived at the gambling den. The building stood out starkly from the surrounding structures, its grandeur flaunting the disparity between wealth and poverty. Guards were posted at the entrance, but Ren approached without hesitation. A sly smile crossed his face as he thought of his plans. He would take everything from this place to fund his industrial projects. Inside, the den was a chaotic mix of noise and desperation. Gamblers pleaded for loans, certain they could win back their losses in the next round. Others celebrated fleeting victories or lamented crushing defeats. Ren observed the scene with a critical eye. As long as this gambling den existed, he realized, the people of Island City would never have the motivation to work diligently. Leah leaned close to Ren, her voice low and cautious as she informed him that their soldiers had surrounded the gambling den. She asked if they should proceed. Ren, maintaining his calm demeanor, told her to wait. He wanted to capture an even bigger target. As he stood there, a staff member from the gambling den approached him with a polite smile and asked what game the young master would like to play. Ren smiled back, feigning inexperience, and admitted that he wasn't very familiar with gambling but wanted to try a few rounds. He asked the staff member to recommend a simple game. Sensing an easy mark, the attendant suggested a dice game and handed Ren 2 complimentary chips, claiming they were free for him to try his luck. Ren accepted them, seemingly pleased. The game began as Ren casually tossed the 2 chips onto the small betting slot. Watching this, the 2 casino staff members exchanged smug glances, confident in their scheme. The dice rolled quickly, landing on 6 and 6, big. The attendant feigned sympathy, consoling Ren by saying he had been close to winning. Ren played his part perfectly, expressing surprise at how quickly the game ended. He remarked that it wasn't very entertaining and said he felt hungry, turning to leave. The attendant, however, stepped in front of him, blocking his way. His polite demeanor dropped, replaced with a mocking tone as he demanded payment for the chips Ren had used. Ren frowned, feigning confusion. He asked when he had agreed to owe anything. The attendant sneered and explained that the chips were not gifts, but loans. He added that each chip was worth 100 gold coins, and with processing fees and interest, Ren now owed 250 gold coins. Smirking, the attendant suggested that if Ren couldn't pay, he could leave his maid as collateral. Lillian, outraged by the scam, quickly spoke up. She accused the attendant of lying and explained to Ren that the chips were worth no more than a silver coin each. The attendant, furious at Lillian for exposing his trick, shouted for the guards to beat her. Before he could finish his command, Ren struck him with a powerful punch, sending the man flying backward and crashing into a nearby table. Adjusting his clothes calmly, Ren remarked that someone like the attendant had no authority to speak here. The casino erupted into chaos as gamblers scrambled to grab the chips that scattered across the floor. Ren sighed as he watched them, muttering that none of these people were of any use. Suddenly, a commanding voice echoed through the room, demanding to know who was causing trouble. The speaker was the same man Ren had encountered on horseback earlier. Ren's lips curled into a smile. He had finally caught the bigger fish. The man's arrival silenced the chaos instantly. He glared at the room with displeasure before ordering his guards to teach the troublemakers a lesson. Without hesitation, the guards began mercilessly beating those nearby, ignoring their cries for mercy. The remaining crowd watched in fear, too scared to intervene. The young master of the Elwyn family sneered at the onlookers, threatening them to behave or face the same fate. Lillian, clutching Leah's arm, whispered that it was all her fault. She blamed herself for leading them to the den and felt ashamed for putting Ren and Leah in such a position. She recalled how Ren had taken her mother to the hospital, personally ensuring she received treatment and promising to cover the costs. That memory filled her with determination. Summoning her courage, Lillian stepped forward and declared that she would not allow them to scam her brother. Her boldness caught everyone's attention, though most were too afraid to react. Murmurs spread through the crowd, questioning who she was and how she dared challenge someone like the young master of the Elwyn family. Weo, the young master, stared at her coldly, enraged by her defiance. Lillian stood her ground, accusing him of using the casino to exploit and destroy families. She refused to let him bully Ren and Leah, calling them good people who didn't deserve such treatment. Weo, seething with anger, lunged at her. Despite her fear, Lillian refused to move, shielding Ren with her small frame. Before Weo could harm her, Ren intercepted the attack, grabbing his arm. Ren then activated his system skill to assess Weo's stats. The results revealed low attributes, only 5 loyalty points, and a personality marked by cruelty and bloodlust. Ren recognized the Elwyn family as a potential threat, one capable of betrayal at any moment. Blocked, Weo glared at Ren and accused him of not respecting the rules of the casino. Ren calmly released his grip and responded that he understood the rules perfectly. In this world, power dictated everything, and the strong made the rules. Weo sneered arrogantly, fully convinced that he was the strongest in the city. He questioned why Ren still dared to oppose him, asking if Ren even knew who he was. Ren's expression remained steady as he responded confidently, asserting that he didn't need to know who Weo was. The only thing that mattered was his own strength, as his fist was bigger and his word was the law. With that, he clapped his hands, signaling his soldiers to storm into the casino. The scene then shifted to a grand banquet held in Ren's honor, gathering the city's most prominent and influential figures, each with their own hidden agendas. Among the attendees was Lucas, the head of a prestigious family. Lucas planned to collaborate with the city lord during this banquet to teach Ren a lesson. He had intended to use Weo to establish a connection with Ren that he could later manipulate, but he was puzzled by Weo's absence. Frustrated, he realized he couldn't rely solely on the city lord's incompetence and would need to adapt his plans. As the banquet hall buzzed with murmurs, a loud voice suddenly announced Ren's arrival. The atmosphere shifted instantly, growing tense and silent as Ren entered. His presence commanded attention, and the guests quickly adjusted their demeanors. The head of the Raven family hurried forward, introducing himself and presenting a gift to Ren. Another guest, the head of the Jose family, eagerly introduced his daughter, hoping to curry favor. However, Ren's sharp expression silenced the room as he instructed everyone to quiet down. With everyone present, Ren declared that it was time to officially begin. He gestured for his attendants to bring in a large blueprint, a peculiar object that immediately caught everyone's attention. Pointing to the blueprint, Ren explained that it was a design for a dam that he had sketched earlier that afternoon. He mentioned that he would enlist skilled craftsmen during its construction to confirm the finer details. The room was filled with whispers as the attendees exchanged confused glances. Someone asked aloud what a dam was, speculating whether it was a tool for fishing. Ren quickly called for silence and instructed Leah to display a map of the region. With the room now quiet, he began his presentation. Ren explained that during his survey of Island City earlier that day, he had identified the root cause of the city's annual flooding, a poorly managed canal in the far north. By building a dam at this location, they could control water flow, using it to irrigate fields during the dry season and releasing excess water during the rainy season to prevent floods. Lucas, listening intently, couldn't help but be impressed by the ingenuity of the plan. He realized that if the dam was successfully built, it would significantly boost the city's food production. For the first time, he acknowledged that Ren possessed a sharp and innovative mind. An older man in the audience asked how the project concerned them, prompting Ren to explain calmly that he needed their investments to fund the dam's construction. This statement shocked the crowd, sparking a wave of grumbling. Many protested, claiming they were too poor to contribute. Lucas remained silent, privately thinking that while Ren was intelligent, he was also naive to expect these opportunists to willingly invest. Ren, however, wasn't as naive as they assumed. Smiling, he reminded them there was no need to feign poverty. He had a plan to make everyone a fortune. Ren revealed that earlier that afternoon, he had seized a casino and confiscated nearly 50,000 gold coins. He hinted that there were several more casinos in Island City ripe for similar action. The revelation left the attendees stunned. Their minds raced as they processed the implications. Some murmured anxiously, wondering if their shares in the casino profits were now lost. Others hoped the seized casino wasn't one of their investments. It became clear that the largest casino in Island City belonged to Lord Andrine, making it likely that Ren had provoked a powerful enemy. Lucas, his calm facade masking inner fury, stepped forward to confront Ren. He accused Ren of acting unlawfully by dismantling a legitimate business without authorization. Lucas emphasized that the laws of the Corial Empire could not be violated and warned Ren of the consequences. Others quickly chimed in, echoing Lucas's words. They accused Ren of overstepping his authority and pointed out that casinos were legitimate businesses. The crowd grew more emboldened, rallying behind Lucas's objections. Ren, unfazed by their protests, remained calm. He addressed the room, noting that when he asked for investments, they claimed to be poor, but now that he offered an opportunity for profit, they were suddenly concerned. He pointed out that most of them were complicit in the casino operations and warned them that this was their last chance to save their reputations, or he would intervene personally. At this, Ren's soldiers stepped forward, their presence a stark reminder of Ren's authority. Lucas, speaking for the group, insisted that the Grand Duke would never condone Ren's reckless actions. Others chimed in, pleading with Ren to reconsider his approach and urging him to act with restraint. Ren smiled, his plan unfolding perfectly. With an air of authority, he announced that he would gladly discuss the law with them. His voice was calm but commanding as he gave the order to bring in those who would help clarify the situation. The crowd fell silent, their unease palpable, as they awaited what Ren had planned next. At Ren's command, 2 men captured at the casino were brought into the room. Lucas, seated among the nobles, was immediately struck by their presence. These 2 were always by Weio's side, and their unexpected appearance left Lucas uneasy. He began to suspect that something must have happened to his son. The men were brought in, bound and gagged, unable to speak. Ren, maintaining his calm demeanor, turned to Lucas and asked if he recognized them. Lucas, keeping his expression neutral, denied any knowledge of the men and asked what Ren meant by the question. Ren smiled lightly, reassuring Lucas not to be so tense. He explained that it wasn't a big deal. These 2 men had simply tried to assassinate him the previous day. Glancing pointedly at Lucas, Ren added that the men had claimed to control the city of Islan, and even hinted at having a powerful backer. Lucas's expression darkened, though he worked to maintain his composure. Beads of sweat formed on his brow as he attempted to hide his unease. Ren ordered his soldiers to untie the 2 men, suggesting they let the party guests see if anyone recognized them. The nobles in the room exchanged uneasy glances. Many of them instantly identified the men as Weio's attendants. Fear gripped the room as the implications of Ren's words became clear. Lucas, realizing the gravity of the situation, acted without hesitation. He grabbed a dagger from the table and lunged at the 2 men with a fury that shocked the onlookers. He denounced them as wretched commoners who dared to attack the Duke's son and swiftly killed them both. Blood pooled on the floor, and the room fell silent as the other nobles watched in stunned horror, too afraid to intervene. Standing over the bodies, Lucas turned to Ren with a feigned look of shame. He apologized profusely, claiming that he had acted out of anger upon hearing about the assassination attempt. He begged for Ren's forgiveness. Ren, who had anticipated this move, smiled knowingly. He praised Lucas for his sense of justice, commending him as a noble who acted decisively. Lucas, masking his relief, thanked Ren for the compliment, stating that he had only done what was necessary. But Ren wasn't finished. Calmly, he ordered his soldiers to bring out the mastermind behind the events to see if there were any other nobles in the room as principled as Lucas. The command made Lucas tense. His son, Weio, was quickly dragged into the room. As soon as he entered, Weio, completely unaware of the situation, shouted angrily at the soldiers to untie him. He boasted about his father's influence, threatening that everyone present would pay once he was free. Lucas's expression crumbled at the sight of his son. Any arrogance in his demeanor vanished as he realized why Weio had been absent from the banquet. Weio, seeing his 2 attendants lying lifeless on the floor, erupted with rage. He insulted Ren, threatening him with torture once he was released. Ren, unfazed by the outburst, chuckled. He sarcastically noted that Weio not only wanted to kill him, but also seemed eager to inflict as much suffering as possible. Weio continued his tirade, boasting that no one in Islan dared to oppose him, and that Ren's death was inevitable. Ren turned to Lucas, asking if he agreed with his son's claims. Weio, still oblivious to Ren's identity, laughed and mocked him further. Just as Weio was about to reveal Lucas's identity, his father cut him off sharply. Lucas, now desperate, scolded Weio, calling him a disobedient son. He ordered Weio to kneel before Ren, but when his son hesitated, Lucas forced him down. Falling to his knees alongside his son, Lucas pleaded for Ren's mercy. He begged for forgiveness, offering all his possessions in exchange for sparing Weio's life. It was only then that Weio realized his mistake. He recalled his father's instructions to befriend the Duke's son, and fear crept into his eyes as he finally understood Ren's true identity. Stammering, Weio apologized and swore never to act so foolishly again. Ren's expression remained cold as he told Weio that his soldiers and authority were proof enough of his status. Lucas joined in, swearing that the Elwyn family would serve Ren loyally and even offering to surrender all their illegally gained assets. Ren, unmoved, informed Lucas that he would accept his offer to turn over the assets. He assured him that if he complied, his family would remain safe. Relieved, Lucas expressed his gratitude. However, as he glanced at the city lord, he realized his influence was now diminished. Knowing he had little choice, Lucas whispered to Ren about a plot against the Duke. He revealed that Lord Eldry had been colluding with outside enemies to betray the city. The revelation shocked the room, and all eyes turned to Eldry, who stood frozen with fear. Lucas was about to elaborate, but Ren interrupted him sharply. He accused Lucas of slandering Eldry and declared that he had been lenient enough. Ren ordered his guards to drag Lucas and Weio out of the room for execution. Lucas was stunned and terrified, unable to understand Ren's sudden shift in behavior. Meanwhile, Eldry, relieved by Ren's response, stepped forward to pledge his loyalty. He praised Ren for his wisdom and promised unwavering support. Ren, smiling, assured Eldry that he trusted him completely. However, Ren secretly used his system to analyze Eldry's attributes. Among ordinary stats, he found the trait greed and noted a loyalty level of only 15. Ren decided that Eldry, like Lucas, was destined to be eliminated. For now, however, he would use Eldry's resources to further his plans. After the banquet ended, Ren continued working late into the night. The nobles had contributed over 100,000 gold coins, an amount equivalent to 2 years of taxes collected from the city of Aislan. Yet the sum didn't satisfy him. As Ren focused on his work, Leah entered the room carrying a cup of tea. She placed it on the desk and observed the displeasure in his expression. Ren took the tea and commented bitterly, questioning whether Leah realized just how wealthy the nobles truly were. Leah didn't respond to his question. Instead, she brought up a more pressing concern. She asked what Ren planned to do about Lucas's revelation at the party. If the city lord, Eldry, truly intended to betray them, it would put Ren in grave danger. Ren reassured her, asking her to stay calm. He admitted that he was certain of Eldry's betrayal, but explained that it wasn't the right time to confront him. When Leia asked why, Ren stretched and stood, answering that Eldry's full network of influence in Aislan was still a mystery. Acting prematurely would only lead to unnecessary chaos. For now, it was best to let Eldry believe that Ren was an ignorant young lord, unaware of the threats surrounding him. The following morning, Eldry met with Guildmaster Malcolm at the Mages Guild. He handed Malcolm a piece of paper, and after reading it, the Guildmaster's face twisted with fury. Malcolm slammed the paper down, calling the situation absurd. Eldry, calm and calculating, asked him not to overreact. He dismissed Ren as a young and overeager noble desperate to prove himself to the Grand Duke. Malcolm, however, wasn't appeased. His irritation grew as he reminded Eldry that even the Grand Duke spoke respectfully to the Mages Guild. Eldry, satisfied with Malcolm's anger, inwardly celebrated. He believed Ren had handed him the perfect opportunity to win over the guild, something he previously lacked the means to accomplish. As Malcolm stormed off with the paper in hand, swearing to demand an explanation from Ren, Eldry silently rejoiced, confident that Ren would soon find himself isolated. Meanwhile, Ren was in his study, sketching plans for a hydraulic construction project. The work reminded him of the hardships he had endured in his previous life. Leah entered to inform him of an unexpected visitor. Guildmaster Malcolm had arrived and was demanding to see him. Surprised, Ren immediately made his way to the parlor to meet him. The moment Ren entered, Malcolm confronted him with anger. He slammed a recruitment notice onto the table, accusing Ren of insulting the Mages Guild. Ren, bewildered, asked for clarification. Malcolm pointed to the notice, which stated that no mages, the disabled, or the elderly would be hired for Ren's project. He demanded to know why Ren had issued such a notice. Ren examined the paper and calmly explained that it was related to the dam construction project. He saw no connection between the notice and any insult to the guild. Malcolm disagreed, accusing Wren of blatant provocation. He argued that by excluding mages, Wren was disrespecting the guild and its members. Wren was taken aback, surprised that mages were competing for manual labor jobs. Still fuming, Malcolm warned Wren that if no reasonable explanation was provided, all mages in the guild would refuse to serve him. Wren frowned and silently called out to his system to analyze Malcolm's stats. The system revealed Malcolm's loyalty level was 82, and his personality was described as inquisitive and straightforward. Wren concluded that Malcolm had been manipulated. Smiling, Wren patiently explained his reasoning. He outlined 3 key points. First, mages had limited mana and could only perform a small amount of work each day, making them unsuitable for large-scale construction. Second, their salaries were equivalent to those of 10 common laborers, making them cost-prohibitive. Third, as a noble, it was Wren's duty to prioritize the welfare of ordinary people who lacked the guild's support. Malcolm, however, remained unconvinced. He argued that magic was revered in their world, and those without magical talent deserved to be trampled beneath the feet of mages. Wren, irritated by this perspective, admitted that it might reflect reality, but firmly stated that he intended to change it. He declared that starting in Iceland, he would prove that mages were no different from ordinary humans. Malcolm, deeply insulted, issued an ultimatum. He demanded Wren retract his statement or face the consequences of angering the Mages Guild. Wren's expression turned cold as he reminded Malcolm to watch his tone. Leah, standing nearby, pressed a knife to Malcolm's throat, her eyes filled with menace. Malcolm froze in terror as Wren calmly pointed out that there was indeed a law allowing a noble's maid to execute someone for disrespect. Wren suggested testing the law with a small cut to see which side the court would favor. Trembling, Malcolm quickly apologized, admitting his mistake and begging for forgiveness. Wren, noting that Malcolm's loyalty hadn't decreased, realized the guildmaster had acted out of ignorance rather than malice. Deciding not to escalate the situation, Wren instructed Leah to escort Malcolm out. Malcolm thanked Wren and hurriedly left. As he departed, the system notified Wren that a beginner task had been completed. He had used the investigation function on 10 individuals. A reward was issued, and a new task appeared: train 5 characters with high stats. Pleased with his progress, Wren decided to review his rewards later. Outside the estate, Eldry waited for Malcolm. The moment he saw the guildmaster, he rushed over, feigning concern. He asked how the meeting had gone. Malcolm, still humiliated, sighed and admitted that Wren had refused to listen and had even thrown him out. Eldry, frustrated but quick to recover, devised another plan. He assured Malcolm that he had a solution, one that would not only make Wren change his mind, but also force him to revere the Mages Guild. After his initial plan failed, Eldry quickly devised another approach. He encouraged Malcolm to manipulate the townsfolk into refusing to work for Wren, believing that such resistance would force Wren to seek Malcolm's assistance. However, Malcolm immediately rejected the idea, pointing out that Wren had offered excellent working conditions that the townsfolk were unlikely to refuse. Undeterred, Eldry suggested a different strategy. He proposed that if those who worked for Wren were shown to be lazy and idle, Wren would eventually grow disillusioned with the commoners. Malcolm dismissed the suggestion, explaining that his dissatisfaction stemmed solely from Wren's refusal to hire mages, not from any grievance with the commoners. He was reluctant to act against Wren over such a matter. Eldry persisted, urging Malcolm to reconsider. He argued that the commoners' inherent laziness was the reason they were starving and struggling to survive. If the land couldn't yield crops, Eldry reasoned, why didn't they take initiative and hunt for food? He claimed that people as idle as the commoners could never genuinely work hard for Wren. Reluctantly, Malcolm agreed to give the plan a try. Meanwhile, Wren's recruitment notice was posted in the town center, quickly attracting a crowd. The townsfolk gathered to read the announcement, intrigued by the new lord's plans to build something and his call for workers. As they scanned the notice, they were stunned. The job offered an 8-hour workday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., 3 daily meals, and a wage of 10 coins per day. A young man in the crowd voiced his skepticism, questioning why the new lord was being so generous. Others shared his doubt, suspecting it might be a scam. Many recalled how nobles had deceived them in the past. Some argued that working under such terms could be dangerous, and might even cost them their lives. At that moment, Lillian stepped forward, her voice strong and determined. She defended Ren, stating that he had promised to improve everyone's lives. Her sincerity was met with laughter and ridicule. The crowd dismissed her words as naive, mocking her for trusting a noble. Even Lillian's father joined in, accusing her of being bewitched by Ren. Ignoring her father's remarks and the jeers of the townsfolk, Lillian announced her intention to register for the dam project. The recruiter, a young man overseeing the registration process, remained calm despite the crowd's skepticism. Turning to Lillian's father, he invited him to work on the dam, but stated that Lillian herself could not participate. Confused, Lillian demanded to know why she was being excluded, insisting she was healthy and capable. The recruiter explained that Ren had set strict rules prohibiting anyone under the age of 18 from working. He emphasized that hiring underage workers without Ren's approval would result in severe punishment. Handing Lillian's father a registration form, he reiterated the terms: 3 meals a day, an 8-hour workday, and a wage of 10 coins per day. If there were no further issues, he invited Lillian's father to sign the form and begin work the following day. Though slightly disappointed, Lillian encouraged her father to do his best and avoid any laziness. Her father, smiling warmly, patted her head and reassured her. He vowed not to gamble again and promised not to disappoint Ren. He also reminded Lillian to stay home the next day and take care of her mother, whose illness made it impossible for her to perform strenuous tasks. Before Lillian and her father could leave, the recruiter called out, asking them to return. Surprised, Lillian's father stopped and asked if there was a problem. The recruiter, looking concerned, mentioned that he had overheard the father say his wife was gravely ill. Lillian's father quickly clarified that his wife was indeed unable to work due to her condition. The recruiter smiled kindly and reassured him that he wasn't asking her to work. He explained that Ren had arranged for workers' families to stay in dormitories provided for the duration of the project. Seeing the father's confusion, the recruiter clarified that the dormitories were temporary housing units for families participating in the dam's construction. Once the project was completed, families could return to their original homes. Moved by such generosity, Lillian's father was overcome with emotion. Falling to his knees, he expressed his deep gratitude to the recruiter. The young man quickly stepped forward to help him up, insisting there was no need for such gestures. He then offered to show them a room where they could stay, allowing them to choose their accommodations. The surrounding townsfolk, who had watched the exchange, were astonished. Realizing that Ren's promises were genuine, they began clamoring to sign up for work. The square descended into chaos as people scrambled to register, eager to take advantage of the opportunity. Meanwhile, in his office, Ren was reviewing updates from the system. A notification suddenly popped up. Congratulations, you have received the lithium battery blueprint from the newbie gift pack. Instead of excitement, Ren felt a wave of irritation. He muttered to himself, questioning the system's logic. Without a generator, a battery was practically useless. Did the system expect him to summon a lightning strike? After venting his frustration, he calmed down and began to reflect. Ren's thoughts shifted to the task of training 5 individuals with high stats. He had no idea where to find such people. At first, he considered training Leah, but a review of her data through the system revealed that she had already reached her potential, leaving no room for further growth. After weighing his options, Ren concluded that his best course of action was to search for talented individuals within Island City. As Ren contemplated his next steps, a knock came at the door. Leah's voice called out from the other side, informing him that Lillian had come to see him. Ren granted her entry. Lillian stepped into the room, her face tense with worry. She quickly explained that something was wrong at the construction site. The workers were too lethargic to work. Ren was taken aback by the report and asked her to elaborate. Lillian recounted what she had observed during her visit to the site. She had gone to check on her father and noticed that none of the workers seemed to have the energy to complete their tasks. At first, she thought they were simply being lazy, but her father explained that everyone felt extraordinarily fatigued upon waking up. It wasn't just him. Every worker shared the same condition. Lillian had tried to encourage them, reminding them of the generous benefits Lord Ren had provided, but her words fell on deaf ears. The workers insisted that their fatigue wasn't deliberate. They genuinely lacked the strength to work. Some speculated that their bodies weren't used to the labor after such a long period of inactivity. Others suggested taking a day off to recover before resuming their duties. However, Lillian dismissed these excuses. declaring that there was no such illness. She firmly believed they were just being lazy. When she realized her efforts to motivate them were futile, she decided to bring the matter directly to Ren. After hearing her account, Ren wasted no time heading to the construction site. Upon arrival, he observed the workers firsthand. Their lethargy was undeniable. To understand the situation better, Ren used his system abilities to analyze their stats. On the surface, everything appeared normal, but he noticed one critical anomaly. All the workers were under a curse. Ren turned to Lillian and calmly explained the situation. "They're not sick, they're cursed." After realizing the workers were cursed, Ren surveyed the construction site, contemplating his next move. He decided to test his newly acquired skill, geological survey. Initially, he had planned to use this skill during the dam's construction, but the current situation presented an immediate need. With this ability, Ren could analyze various geological features, including mineral compositions, hydrology, and topography within a defined range. Under Ren's command, the system activated, conducting a survey within a 10-kilometer radius. Moments later, the results materialized in his mind. While the survey confirmed the absence of valuable resources like oil or metals, something unusual caught Ren's attention. Acting on his instincts, he asked Lillian's father to assist him in digging at the marked spot. The man agreed without hesitation, expressing his readiness to work hard for Ren. After digging about a meter into the ground, the group unearthed a strange black stone. Ren crouched to examine it closely, questioning its nature. Leah, standing nearby, was astonished by Ren's ability to sense the faint, magical energy emanating from the stone, something even she, with her expertise, had overlooked. Ren instructed the group to carefully remove the crystal and store it securely in a box. Turning to Leah, Ren asked what the usual procedure was for dealing with cursed individuals. Leah, caught off guard by the question, explained that curses were typically resolved by priests at a church or by high-ranking mages from the Mage Association. Hearing this, Ren frowned, suspecting a connection to the Mage Association. He then decided to take Lillian and her father to the local church for assistance. Lillian, worried, asked if her father was truly cursed. Ren reassured her, promising to make the culprit pay for their actions. The group quickly made their way to the church, where they were greeted by a stunning priestess. She welcomed Ren warmly, her demeanor calm and composed. Ren, ever cautious, used his system to assess her loyalty before entrusting her with the task. The system instantly revealed her stats: a loyalty level of 95%, race identified as elf, and an actual age of approximately 257 years, though she appeared no older than 24. Ren was surprised to learn she wasn't human, but felt reassured by her high loyalty. Introducing herself, the priestess said her name was Ari and referred to herself as the Holy Maiden of the Church. She politely inquired about the purpose of their visit. Pointing to Lillian's father, Ren explained that the man seemed to be cursed and asked if Ari could help. Ari nodded confidently and began examining the man. Closing her eyes briefly, she reopened them with a golden glow, scanning him intently. After a moment, she confirmed Ren's suspicion and began the treatment. Summoning a glowing sphere of light, she directed it into the man's body, expelling the dark energy. Instantly, the man felt revitalized, expressing his gratitude to Ren and vowing to return to work immediately. Ren, smiling, advised him to rest and ensure everything was fully resolved before resuming work. He then retrieved the box containing the black crystal and asked Ari for her opinion on it. Ari examined the crystal carefully, identifying it as a magic crystal infused with a significant amount of magical energy. She explained that such energy was often used for casting curses. However, she clarified that this particular curse was more of a prank, designed to cause fatigue rather than serious harm. The explanation made Ren uneasy. He asked whether such crystals were difficult to produce. Ari replied that for a high-level mage, creating one crystal a day was relatively simple. They could easily scatter them across the construction site. Ren's expression darkened as he realized the deliberate nature of the interference. Ari acknowledged Ren's project, praising its impact on reducing the number of people seeking aid from the church. Ren, now certain of the culprit's identity, resolved to take action. He asked Ari if it was possible to lift the curse over the entire construction site. Ari regretfully informed him that such a feat wasn't possible. Removing individual crystals daily would only slow the project's progress. Ren sighed, recognizing the need to address the root of the problem. Eri then mentioned someone who might be able to help but warned that this individual was eccentric. She provided an address, and Ren decided to investigate. Ren and Leah arrived at a large mansion, which Eri had identified as the home of Selena, the former president of the Mage Association. Approaching the door, Ren knocked firmly, his determination unwavering. Suddenly, Leah sensed danger and swiftly pulled Ren aside. Moments later, an explosion erupted from the upper floor of the mansion, sending smoke and debris into the air. Ren, startled, demanded to know what was happening. From the smoke, a stunning woman emerged, her voice filled with frustration. She cursed her failed experiment, vowing to succeed even if it meant blowing up the entirety of Island City. After entering the house, Ren calmly presented his request to Selena, explaining the issue and seeking her assistance. However, she refused outright, dismissing him curtly. She informed Ren that she was preoccupied with researching a new magical device and had no time to deal with his problems. Intrigued, Ren asked her to elaborate, questioning if she meant something like a magic wand. Selena sneered at the suggestion, mocking his limited understanding. Leah, her demeanor icy, immediately intervened, warning Selena to watch her tone when addressing young Master Ren. Annoyed by Leah's reprimand, Selena turned her gaze toward her and commented on Leah's impressive magical power. With a sly smile, Selena suggested that Leah stay as her assistant. In return, Selena promised to assist Ren once her research succeeded. Sparks of lightning crackled around Selena as she displayed her power. Leah, unflinching, prepared to retaliate, her voice sharp as she offered to teach Selena some manners. Sensing the rising tension, Ren stepped between them, urging Leah to stand down. He reminded her that they were here for help, not to start a fight. Turning to Selena's cluttered workspace, Ren asked if she had created the items scattered across the table. He wanted to know if they were magical devices. Selena's eyes gleamed with pride as she confirmed his observation. She clarified, however, that everything on the table was a failed product. She explained that she was trying to create a magical device capable of sealing the lightning element magic within her body. Ren was astonished. He marveled at the concept, equating it to storing electrical energy. Selena confirmed his interpretation and mentioned that the earlier explosion was due to her devices failing to withstand her power. Dismissing him again, she said she needed to rest and continue her research. Ren paused, deep in thought, before making an offer. He told Selena that if he could help her create the device she needed, she would have to assist him with his issues regarding the Mages Guild. Selena, skeptical and irritated, brushed him off, claiming her research was far too complex for someone like him to solve. Remaining composed, Ren assured her he was serious. He promised to help her create the magical device, asking for her support in return. Intrigued but doubtful, Selena finally agreed, setting a condition. If Ren succeeded, she would not only deal with Malcolm, but also ensure the Mages Guild obeyed his every command. However, if he failed, she wouldn't hesitate to punish him. Without wasting time, Ren asked Selena to prepare the required materials. Using the blueprint provided by the system, he guided her in assembling a lithium battery pack consisting of 8 large batteries linked together. Despite their efforts, Ren felt nervous. They lacked a reliable power source to test the device, as a hydraulic generator wasn't available. They had no choice but to rely on Selena's magic as a substitute. Selena, following Ren's instructions, assembled the components but remained skeptical. She reminded him that most materials couldn't handle her magical power and warned that the device might explode. Ren, unfazed, handed her the wires and reassured her. He explained that the battery pack had a capacity of approximately 185 watt-hours and urged her to channel her energy into it. Reluctantly, Selena began discharging her magic. To her astonishment, the device absorbed her energy without any issues. Curious, she increased the output, yet the battery remained stable. Selena, shocked, demanded to know why the device hadn't exploded. Ren smirked and taunted her, suggesting that her magical power wasn't as impressive as she thought. Infuriated, Selena unleashed her full strength. Even at maximum output, the battery pack held steady, showing no signs of damage. Selena was left speechless at how much power the device could contain and how effortlessly Ren had built it. Ren, satisfied, stepped forward to check the charge level. The battery was at 87% capacity. Internally, he marveled at Selena's strength. She had charged nearly the entire pack, enough to power an electric car for over 3,000 kilometers. Ren's confidence grew as he turned to Selena and declared his plans to revolutionize the Mages Guild. He referred to them as potential power banks and explained his vision for their magical abilities. Selena, intrigued, asked if Ren himself could use lightning magic. Ren didn't deny it. Instead, he claimed he could make everyone in Island City capable of wielding magic. Selena was skeptical, pointing out that magic couldn't simply be learned by anyone. Ren, however, remained composed. He hinted at possessing a magical device even more powerful than the battery pack and promised to show her a world where magic was accessible to all if she agreed to help him. Selena, both baffled and curious, couldn't imagine such a possibility, but decided to continue working with him. The next day at the Mages Guild, Malcolm was leisurely reading a book, confident that Ren would soon come begging for his help. His calm was interrupted by Selena's sudden arrival. Seeing her enter, Malcolm froze in shock. The former president of the Mages Guild was the last person he expected to see. Stammering, he greeted her cautiously, wondering why she had come. Selena's voice rose in anger as she confronted Malcolm, accusing him of daring to challenge the authority of the Grand Duke's household. Her words carried a sharp edge as she questioned whether he was planning a rebellion. Malcolm, visibly shaken, stammered nervously, denying any such intentions. He assured Selena that he would never harbor such dangerous thoughts. Unconvinced, Selena grabbed Malcolm by the collar, her patience visibly wearing thin. She demanded the truth, insisting he confess what he had done at Ren's construction site. Malcolm, trembling, quickly relented. He admitted to summoning all the mages from the guild and inciting their anger by claiming that young Master Ren had disrespected them. He confessed to instructing the mages to craft curse-infused crystals and using teleportation magic to plant them underground at the construction site. This scheme was meant to cause the workers to feel fatigued, hoping Ren would blame them for laziness. Malcolm's goal was to force Ren to apologize and seek closer cooperation with the Mages Guild. Selena listened with a mix of disbelief and frustration. Shaking her head, she called Malcolm a fool and pointed out that he had been manipulated. When Malcolm, still confused, asked who had used him, Selena dismissed his question. Instead, she ordered him to recall every mage involved in the sabotage immediately. Malcolm nodded hastily and rushed off to follow her command. Once Malcolm was gone, Selena pulled out a talisman to contact Ren. She informed him that she had resolved the issue with the Mages Guild. Through the talisman, Ren expressed his gratitude, thanking her for her assistance. Selena, curious, asked if he needed her help dealing with Eldry, offering to make him disappear without a trace. Ren quickly declined, waving his hand reflexively, even though she couldn't see him. He explained that Eldry wasn't a significant concern and that he still needed him to lure out a bigger threat. Accepting Ren's decision, Selena agreed not to interfere. Her tone shifted to excitement as she brought up the new inventions Ren had mentioned earlier. She pressed him for details, asking when they would be ready and insisting he call her when he began working on them. Ren reassured her that he would keep her informed, but emphasized the importance of having the guild's mages finish charging the battery clusters first. The next day, at the city lord's residence, Eldry met with a mysterious man cloaked in shadow. Eldry, visibly worried, reported that Ren had already taken control of the Mages Guild. He nervously asked for guidance. The mysterious man, however, remained calm and dismissive, stating that the Mages Guild posed no real threat, aside from Selena. He redirected Eldry's attention to Ren's dam project, warning that if the dam succeeded, it could revitalize the people of Islan, a scenario they couldn't allow. Eldry assured the man that he had already set traps for Ren and revealed an additional plan. He intended to pressure the nobles in charge of food supplies to raise prices, undermining Ren's efforts. When the mysterious man expressed doubt about the nobles' loyalty, Eldry confidently explained that while the nobles might betray him, they would never betray their own financial interests. Flicking a gold coin into the air with a smirk, Eldry declared that Ren's funds wouldn't last until the dam's completion. As the coin landed on the table, the mysterious man's figure dissolved into thin air. Meanwhile, in the bustling market, Lillian was buying supplies for the construction site when a shopkeeper rudely chased her away. His tone was condescending as he told her to leave if she couldn't afford the goods. Lillian, frustrated, pointed out the absurd price hike, Just the day before, 2 bags of grain had cost 1 gold coin, but now 1 bag alone was priced at 2 gold coins. The shopkeeper, unfazed, arrogantly stated that he could set whatever prices he wanted. He mocked her inability to pay and raised his hand as if to strike her. The commotion drew the attention of onlookers, many of whom were outraged by the shopkeeper's actions. Lillian, determined to fulfill her task for Ren, accused the merchants of profiteering and warned them of Ren's potential wrath. The shopkeeper sneered, dismissing her threat. He claimed his business was honest and that Ren had no grounds to interfere. His arrogance only deepened the frustration of those watching. At the church, Ari was equally infuriated by the rampant price gouging. She noted that food prices had tripled in just 3 days, leaving her with inadequate grain to sustain the people through the winter. Handing a pouch of coins to her assistant Era, she instructed her to buy whatever supplies she could, promising to figure out the rest later. Era hesitated, surprised by the unusually large sum of money, and pointed out that bribing guards typically required much less. Ari sighed, urging Era to follow her orders without question. Before Era could act, Leah appeared suddenly, snatching the pouch with lightning speed and handing it to Ren. With a calm but determined expression, Ren suggested a collaboration. He proposed working together on a larger plan, one that would address the root of the crisis and prevent further exploitation by the merchants. Ari looked at Ren with suspicion, questioning what kind of cooperation he had in mind. Ren smiled at her guarded demeanor, suggesting she relax and not be so tense about discussing cooperation. He then casually mentioned that he knew she was an elf. Ari, though deeply concerned that Ren had discovered her true identity, maintained her composure and denied it, insisting that an elf couldn't possibly be living in a human city. Ren, unfazed, tossed a pouch of coins back to Ari and reassured her that he held no malicious intentions toward her or her kind. Ari, avoiding the topic, redirected the conversation, again asking what kind of cooperation he was proposing. Ren gestured toward the sacks of food on a cart nearby and explained that he wanted to collaborate on resolving the issue of food supplies in the city. While Ari respected Ren's determination, she doubted his ability to tackle such a deeply entrenched problem. She openly voiced her skepticism, prompting Ren to ask why she felt that way. Ari elaborated, explaining that food supplies in Eastland were controlled by 4 major families who had held power in the city for over a century. These families tightly regulated prices, and their influence was unshakable. She reminded Ren that although he had used strong-arm tactics at the recent banquet to intimidate some of them, they were cunning individuals who would undoubtedly find a way to recover their losses. Ren interrupted her, curious about her in-depth knowledge of the city's inner workings. Ari admitted that she had lived in Islan for over 120 years and understood its complexities well. She further suggested that had Ren eliminated the Elwyn family at the banquet, there might have been a chance for reconciliation. But now it was too late. Ari added that due to war and natural disasters, food was already scarce, and if prices remained high, her tribe would struggle to survive the winter. Ren cut her off again, his gaze resolute. He promised Ari that within 2 weeks, food prices in Island would plummet to levels even lower than before the recent price hikes. At the mansion of Augustus Ken, head of the Klein family, a celebratory gathering was underway. Augustus expressed his gratitude to Eldry for his support, acknowledging that their alliance had led to significant profits. Others in the room echoed their thanks, raising their glasses to toast Augustus and their shared success. The mood was jubilant as the group reveled in their recent gains, confident in their strategy. Their celebration was interrupted by a servant announcing that Ren had invited them to attend a banquet at his mansion. One of the men, startled by the news, speculated nervously whether Ren was planning to punish them. Turning to Augustus, he asked for guidance on how they should proceed. Augustus, calm and calculating, reassured them that they had nothing to fear. He explained that their trade in food supplies was entirely legal and protected by the system they had established. Augustus emphasized that as long as they didn't openly defy Ren, they wouldn't be in danger. He pointed out that the collective strength of their 4 families was formidable, and that even the king had no authority to interfere with food pricing. With this reasoning, the group relaxed, agreeing that their position was secure. Augustus suggested that if Ren attempted to pressure them, they could make a token gesture by slightly lowering prices, perhaps by 5 copper coins, However, he warned them sternly that any betrayal would result in severe consequences. With their confidence restored, Augustus encouraged the group to prepare for the banquet. Despite their initial surprise at his insistence on changing into old, tattered clothes, they followed his lead. At Ren's mansion, a servant informed him that Augustus and the invited guests had arrived. Ren instructed the servant to invite them in and ensure the kitchen prepared the food. When Augustus and the others entered, Ren immediately noticed their deliberate attempts to appear impoverished, their once lavish clothing replaced with ragged attire. Amused, he thought to himself how poorly they played their roles. Maintaining his composure, Ren greeted them with mock surprise. He commented on how unexpected it was to see the nobleman who controlled Elan's food supply looking so destitute. Augustus quickly responded, praising Ren's projects and claiming that they, too, wanted to contribute to the greater good. Another man chimed in, explaining that under Augustus's leadership, they had not only donated money to Ren's initiatives, but also sold food from their warehouses at the lowest possible prices, even taking a loss to help the citizens. Leah, observing their shameless behavior, felt nothing but disdain. Their blatant lies and attempts to deceive Ren did not surprise her. Ren, however, played along, thanking them for their understanding and claiming to be deeply moved by their support. He explained that he had invited them to discuss the grain trade plan. Before Ren could continue, Augustus interrupted, asserting that they understood Ren's financial difficulties. He reiterated that at the current price of 2 gold coins per sack of food, they were already selling at a loss. The others nodded in agreement, backing Augustus's claim. Ren smiled and clarified his intent. He proposed raising the price of food in Island to 4 gold coins per sack starting the next day. His statement left the nobles baffled. Augustus, confused, questioned whether Ren truly intended to increase prices. Ren confirmed with a calm yet commanding tone, explaining that not only would the price rise to 4 gold coins, but he would also take a 30% commission on all sales. When Ren announced that the price of grain would increase to 4 gold coins per sack, with a 30% commission going to him, Augustus was visibly confused. He questioned whether Ren had misspoken, unsure if he had heard correctly. Ren didn't repeat himself, instead calmly reminding Augustus about the 30% commission he would be taking. Hearing this, Augustus and the other nobles quickly exchanged delighted glances. Initially, they had underestimated Ren, thinking him to be just an inexperienced young lord. Now, they believed he was a cunning businessman like themselves. They viewed Ren as someone who understood their interests and figured that with his backing, their business ventures would thrive. Regret filled them for not realizing his shrewdness earlier. They could have aligned with him much sooner. Augustus, while excited by Ren's statement, knew they couldn't act rashly. Without official documentation, raising prices too high could cause chaos, potentially harming their interests. With this in mind, Augustus voiced his concerns, politely thanking Ren for his understanding and asking when an official announcement would be issued. Ren, prepared for this, instructed Leah to hand him a document. With a cheerful tone, he informed them that he had already written and stamped the official notice with his family seal, and it would be posted after their meal. As the conversation continued, Ren reminded the nobles that from now on, they would follow his instructions, urging them to learn from the consequences the Elwyn family had suffered. Augustus eagerly assured him that they wouldn't disappoint. After the banquet, the nobles gathered once again at Augustus's residence. Ren's unexpected approach had left them bewildered. They debated whether to report this new development to Eldry, noting how strange it was for Ren to increase prices rather than lower them. Some suspected he was motivated purely by greed. Augustus, however, dismissed their doubts, calling it a golden opportunity. He reminded them that if too many people learned of their scheme, their profits would shrink. He assured them that Ren was merely a child using benefits to draw them in and urged them to keep the price hike a secret. A vast fortune was within their grasp, and only a fool would let such an opportunity slip away. Despite Augustus's confidence, one cautious noble expressed unease. He admitted that in all his years, he had never encountered such a lucrative opportunity, which made him wary. Nonetheless, he pledged to follow Augustus's lead, bowing deeply as a show of loyalty. The others quickly followed suit, swearing their allegiance to Augustus. Satisfied, Augustus laughed heartily, declaring that from now on they would act as one. He proposed they immediately buy up all the grain from smaller merchants before the announcement was posted, ensuring they controlled the market and maximized their profits. Meanwhile, back at Ren's estate, unexpected guests arrived. Scientist Era stormed in, visibly furious. She accused Ren of siding with the corrupt merchants, demanding to know why he had promised to lower grain prices yet allowed them to skyrocket instead. Her anger flared as she declared that she wouldn't stand by while the elf race was being exploited. Lillian quickly stepped in, trying to calm her down. She assured Era that Ren intended to reduce food prices and urged her to trust him. Still agitated, Era snapped back, insisting that Ren had already become an accomplice to the greedy merchants. Despite this, Lillian maintained her faith in Ren's decisions, pleading with Era to believe in his plan. After a moment of tense silence, Era turned to Ren, her expression filled with concern. Hesitantly, she asked if he truly intended to raise food prices. Ren smiled but chose not to reveal his full strategy, simply reassuring her that food prices would drop soon. In the worst case, he promised, they would fall to their lowest point within 2 weeks. Era, unconvinced, felt Ren was being naive. She believed he didn't understand the harsh realities of the world. Having lived for over 200 years, she had never seen food prices decrease after a major spike. Ren, sensing her doubt, grew serious. He posed a rhetorical question. If he put a knife to the nobles' throats, how much did she think they would lower the price by? 1 coin? 10 coins? Era had no answer but remained skeptical. She argued that raising the price to 4 gold coins per sack was excessive, noting that at 2 gold coins, the common people had already struggled to afford food. With the price doubled, starvation seemed inevitable. Ren maintained his calm demeanor, explaining that whether the price was 2 or 4 gold coins, the people would starve either way. The only difference was the timing. He then declared that simply lowering the price by a few coins would be meaningless. His goal wasn't charity, it was to completely ruin the merchants and strip them of their fortunes. 7 days passed, during which Ren focused on teaching Selena about the creation and functionality of lithium batteries. Selena, fascinated by the device's complexity, was thoroughly engrossed in the lessons. Their session was interrupted by Leah's sudden appearance, announcing that Saintess Era had come to visit once again. Over the past few days, Era had visited frequently, prompting Ren to wonder if she had too much free time on her hands. Selena, equally curious, asked Ren why he had deliberately raised food prices. By now, grain prices in the city had soared to nearly 7 gold coins per sack. Ren, surprised by how quickly prices had risen, didn't have time to answer as Era burst into the room. She immediately scolded him, exclaiming that not only the common people but even some nobles could no longer afford food. She demanded to know if he realized how bad the situation had become. Remaining calm, Ren asked Leah how many days had passed since the price increase. Leah quickly responded, confirming that it had been 7 days. Hearing this, Ren smiled, declaring that it was time to deal with the merchants. Era, still frustrated, demanded that Ren stop speaking in vague terms and explain himself. She warned him that if he didn't, the elf tribe would soon cut ties with him. Ren finally responded, explaining that he hadn't shared the full details of his plan earlier because he feared it might disrupt things and raise suspicions among the nobles. Now, with everything in place, he was ready to explain. Ren revealed that the announcement setting a minimum food price of 4 gold coins per sack had been in effect for 7 days. He then posed a question to Era, asking what she thought Ailing City lacked the most right now. After a moment of thought, she replied that there didn't seem to be a shortage of anything. Ren smiled knowingly at her answer and calmly responded, "What the city lacks are merchants who sell grain." Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.